Conservation easements are popular in certain parts of the country as they can be used to protect and preserve ag land. But can the proceeds received be used to acquire replacement real estate and be tax deferred? Well, to tackle that question, we're now joined by Roger McEowen. He's with the Washburn University School of Law. As always, Roger, thanks for joining us today. And first of all, let's start with the basics. What exactly is the definition of real estate for us?
Well, good to be with you, Janet, and that's indeed where we start with this. And of course, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that went into effect at the beginning of 2018 eliminated tax-deferred exchanges for personal property, but we can still do it with respect to real estate. And so our definition of real estate is important, and it's defined very broadly. Virtually any real estate that's used for business or investment can be exchanged for any other real estate as long as you're using the replacement property for business or investment purposes. There's no requirement that we have to match type or class, and we can go bare farmland for improved real estate in town. It just depends on whether it's used for business purposes or for investment. So very broad definition.
So do the proceeds received from a conservation easement transaction qualify as like kind of real estate?
Well, indeed they can, and the key, or one of the significant keys to this, is how state law defines property. And in many states, in fact, in just about everywhere, an easement is an interest in property. It's a possessory interest. It's not an ownership interest, but it's an interest in real estate. And so it does qualify if you grant, for example, a conservation easement and you receive proceeds from the grant or the sale, in addition to the easement that's contributed, say, to a land trust. You can use those proceeds and buy replacement real estate and have the tax deferred under 1031 of the code.
And can the tax deferral rules also be used?
Yeah, indeed. It's fairly straightforward. As long as we're not using what are called syndicated partnerships, it's pretty straightforward. And yes, you can use those proceeds. There are a lot of private letter rulings that the IRS has issued. There's good case law on this, that those proceeds received from an easement, conservation easement donation can be used to buy replacement property, and we can defer the gain, if any, until that replacement property is sold.
Now, Roger, I understand that the IRS has been aggressive at auditing donated conservation easements accomplished via a syndicated partnership. Can you speak to that? Is that true?
Yeah, in general, the IRS does not like the concept of donated conservation easements because they see a taxpayer getting a tax benefit. They get a deduction for the donation to a land trust, an entity that derives the tax benefit for them, a charity. But yet the landowner gets to use their property pretty much just like they did before. They can farm it, they can graze it. So these come under strict scrutiny, and you've got to get your appraisals correct, you've got to get your values correct, and stay away from the syndicated partnerships. It's a technical deal where you're using an entity or an individual to buy and develop property and then transfer it to a partnership. They really look at those pretty highly. So as long as we have our values correct and we have our appraisals correct and we're not trying to get fancy with syndicated partnerships, you can do a donated easement and get 1031 treatment.
All right, Roger, as always, thank you very much for your insight today. Roger McEowen, he's with the Washburn University School of Law, joining us on the phone today from Topeka, Kansas.